I'm at the Economist Buttonwood Gathering event, joined by Adam Posen of the Bank of England. Adam, you've been a strong supporter of quantitative easing. Why is this a good decision right now?
If you look at the forecast for Great Britain or also for the US or the euro area, you've got growth below potential, you've got inflation coming down, you've clearly got anchored low inflation expectations in the bond markets and now in surveys, and that means we're just wasting demand. There are things that we should be doing to stimulate the economy. And it's not only about making sure that inflation is stable and growth is stable, we're never going to be able to tackle our fiscal problems if we don't have adequate sustained growth. So I think it's a clear reason for central banks to do more.
Unemployment's still high, the outlook on the economy is dim. How much longer are we going to need to continue to do quantitative easing?
Things would be much worse than they otherwise have been if we hadn't done the previous round. And I think it will continue to do well for us to keep up this kind of loose policy, which means at least holding on to the treasuries and gilts we buy, not selling them, for probably another couple of years.
Beyond quantitative easing, what other monetary policy actions should be taken right now?
I'm not sure there's that many other strictly monetary policy actions to be undertaken, but I do think there's a lot of room for central banks and elected officials to cooperate. There's a tendency, particularly in the euro area right now, to say, oh, you can't possibly cooperate on buying government bonds or work with them on financial policy because then you compromise independence, and I believe this is rubbish. An independent central bank that has the right to say no, but that doesn't mean it's like a teenager and has to say no anytime the parent says, let's do something.
What are your biggest concerns right now for the economy in 2012?
Well, the first and biggest concern would be if something disastrous were to happen in the euro area. That would obviously be a huge effect on the UK, but it would be a material effect on the US and on China and everybody else. I'm very hopeful that instead of huge disaster, we're going to have stagnation and a lot of volatility, which isn't a great outcome, but is a much better outcome than it could be. If we take that as given, then I think the outlook for the world economy is not great, but not terrible. I think given the policy measures we've undertaken, and I hope the other central banks will undertake, we're going to avoid a double-dip recession. I think we're going to have below potential growth in the G7. Maybe Germany will manage to grow at potential because they export to China, but the rest of Europe's going to have a real hard time of it. I think in the US, I predicted before I joined the Bank of England we'd have a W-shaped path going forward, and that's what we're getting. We're on the next leg down of the W before it goes up again. In short, it's not going to be a fun year in 2012, but it shouldn't be anything like 2009.